What up, YouTubers? It's your boy, the Visionary. Welcome to another episode of Firesidechats, Metaphysics, philosophy, and stuff I want to talk about. Today's episode is about the concept of money. More or less, it's a question I want to ask to all my listeners. What do you think money is? The textbook definition of the word money, or more or less what it's accepted to be, as far as the financial industry is concerned, is it's a medium of exchange, right, between two individual parties. So you have this word, this construct, right, and it's supposed to be a medium of exchange between two parties, right? Because if you look at the world today, and you look at how we barter, how one person trades what he has to someone else for something that he needs, right? And you realize that some people make certain things that are considered to be more valuable than something else. Because if let's say if I make cars, right, and there's a gentleman or a person who's a farmer, right, and he grows food, him giving me, let's say, 10 pounds of food or 20 pounds of food for a car, on the surface doesn't seem fair, you know what I mean? So, this concept called money was created, in order to make the actual transaction more fair, right? Because they were using another medium of value for exchange, you know what I mean? So, one of the things I want to talk about in regards to what money is I want to talk about why people consider money important, and by proxy why gold and silver is important, because money is a proxy for gold and silver, right? And gold and silver are just proxies for something of true value. Because gold and silver in and of themselves, they have two things, right? There's two concepts I want to talk about. One, it's called intrinsic value, and the other thing is called extrinsic value. Now, intrinsic value is a concept that means that the object, person, place, or thing has a value that's intrinsically important, right? Like, it's not given value based on what other people or outside forces give it, you know what I mean? So let's say if I grow food and I have a basket of apples, oranges, and grapes and stuff like that, right? That basket of fruit can be eaten on the spot because it's one of the three main things that humans need to survive. Food, food, water, shelter, and clothing, right? So those are the four main things related to intrinsic value. Anything that can be used to help you do one of those four things, to drink water, to eat, to shelter, and to have clothing, right? So that's something that has intrinsic value. So back in the old days, before money was created, we used to have a barter system. I give you something, and you give me what I need, and I give you what I need. And that made sense because if I was a carpenter and I had carpets, or I built things, and I go to a person who was a fisherman, and he fished and he caught fish, we can trade our service, between each other evenly, right? So the thing is, now, as we come into the modern age, we have another concept called extrinsic value. These are objects, persons, places, or things that are given value by outside influences, right? There's no intrinsic value within these particular objects, places, or things, right? So if you look at gold, right? You look at gold, and gold is actually an object of extrinsic value. It is not an object of intrinsic value. You can't eat gold, you can't drink gold, you can't wear gold. Well, you can, but, I would say 95% of the entire population does not have the actual technical know-how or the equipment to actually be able to mold and use gold for those type of purposes. You know what I mean? And realistically, if you try to build something with gold, let's say a house or a structure, gold is one of the weakest metals on the fucking planet. So there's no real point in trying to use gold, you know what I mean? People actually mix gold with other minerals and materials in order to make the finished product in and of itself, the appearance of it being gold stronger, because gold is a weak metal. You can't really build anything of real substance. Like, you can take a sword and chop off the head of a gold statue. That's how weak the metal is in and of itself. I would rather have a ton of steel than of gold, because you can't just naturally break steel down. You know what I mean? So now that we understand, objects of value, aka gold and silver or money, and we understand the concepts of intrinsic and extrinsic value, what we need to talk about, what we need to understand is, why are there problems in the world? You know what I mean? Because if we have this object of value, money, right? Yet it's one of the main reasons why problems exist in the world. Then why do we continue using this concept, this idea, this construct? You know what I mean? Because money is a barrier now. It's not a medium of exchange anymore. It's a barrier to economic progress, to success, to forward momentum. You know what I mean? To basic survival, to access to resources. Period. Because if you let's look at education, right? Public education is free, but once you graduate high school, the general idea, the socially accepted thing to do is to go to college, right? But what happens if you come from a poor family, right? Your family does not have the money to put you through college so you can get a proper education, so you can get a good job. Now, money is it's a negative barrier for you to get access to resources, because the education is just a proxy, you know what I mean? It's just a way for you to get your degree, to learn a particular skill or trait or ability, and then you can go out into the real world, you get a good job, and then you gain access to the currency, money, and then you use that to buy whatever you need to survive, period. But because of the fact that you need money to get there, and if you do not have money to get there, how are you going to be able to gain access to the resources when there's this particular barrier, money, preventing you to do so, right? And what a lot of people don't understand statistically is that people who come from certain cultures, whether it's black, Spanish, or West Indian, or other cultures that come from poor countries, tend to not have the currency, the correct amount of currency that would allow them to go to higher education, period. Though we set up this system called credit and debt and loans and stuff like that, all that does is it creates a caste system where people are basically indentured servants. You know what I mean? You're indentured slaves. You have to work off the debt more or less probably 5-6 years, and once that's done, then you can actually start living your life and enjoying the fruits of your labor, so on and so forth. That is another barrier to success, because a lot of people do not want to go into a system where they're technically an indentured servant, period. Again, money is a barrier to access to resources and to economic prosperity and success, period. I honestly believe we need to do away with the concept of money. We need to do away with it, period. We need to have a planned, structured economy and a planned and structured educational system where the gap, the chasm that's in between the employment sector and the education sector, because that's what a lot of the problem is, because there's lots of jobs out there, believe it or not, but the problem is there's ever expanding workforce, but who do not have the training or experience necessary to work some of these jobs. Some of these jobs are kind of simple, but they do require some sort of technical training to do. So that's where we need to discuss the how to bridge the gap, the chasm between the ever expanding workforce and the access to these economic opportunities that are out there. Because there's lots of jobs out there. There's lots of jobs. They pay a lot of money, but again, there's no connection between the employment sector and the educational sector, unless you come from more affluent families. If you go through certain channels, basic networks and channels from high school to college and then to universities, and then you graduate into the workforce, period. A lot of people don't have that, especially people who come from poor cultures, statistically. So, ending off, money is a medium of exchange. It is also a proxy of a proxy, and that proxy being gold. Gold in and of itself has no intrinsic value, meaning it has no value outside of what an outside force places on it. meaning you can't eat it, you can't drink it, you can't wear it, and you can't live in it. Gold has extrinsic value, meaning value that's placed upon it by outside forces, aka humans. And currently, currency in and of itself has become a barrier to people moving forward and gaining access to resources in and of itself. Alright, that's it. Take care. Peace.